This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. If you can, check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it honest.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KBNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners.
Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, August 12th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. For those who don't know, I am a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Remember to super chat, just click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back into the mission, and for that, we thank you. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments, including investigations, which are coming soon. Just click the big blue button that says join. Our guest tonight for season 3, episode 27 is John Russell. John Russell has been an internationally known professional psychic for almost half a century. Working with clients around the world, he also has been a featured guest on many popular radio shows and recently filmed a TV pilot for the History Channel in which he psychically explored the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. He also has been an avid motorcyclist for over 50 years when he's not chasing ghosts around the country on his motorcycle. John enjoys reading. Pardon me. Sorry, my cat interrupted me. So when he's not touring around the country on his motorcycle, John enjoys reading, painting, making photographs, gardening, target shooting, and fancies himself a fair chess player. Interesting. All right, John, put on your tinfoil hat. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, Ryan, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me. I got my tinfoil hat on. Let's go.
Let's go. Right on. So we're gonna kick the night off with the icebreaker from Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison. Let me get his little intro up here. Where is it? Right on here. So the way this works, if you guys are new to this channel, Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison, will give me an icebreaker question. I am going to read this live for the first time, and we're going to get the show going right here. So, all right, so you can find Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison, at the Demon Guy on Facebook and Demon Guy Canada on Twitter. All right, so what do you have for us today, Timmy? His question is, if you could go back and uninvent something, what invention would you erase from history?
The atomic bomb.
Okay, yeah, well that's a good one.
Yeah.
Would change that would change quite a lot.
Yeah, you know, the thing when we first tested the atomic bomb, it's a matter of record that scientists did not know for a certainty that the chain reaction would go on forever and burn up the universe as we know it. And they decided to do it anyways. And after the development of the atomic bomb, the nuclear bombs, everything that we have now, storing the waste from these bombs contaminates the soil and the water where they're stored for a minimum of 10,000 years. Think about that. We have junk scattered around this planet that renders the soil and the water unusable for 10,000 years. So if I could uninvent anything, it would be the atomic bomb.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that, because I can't think of anything that would be better than that. I mean, other than religion. It's not really.
Yeah, well, yeah, if we could uninvent religion, that'd be good too. But at least I can ignore my next door neighbor, but the atomic waste I can't ignore.
Yeah, no, that's true. True for that. All right, well, let's thank you, Tim. Thank you for that. That was a good question. Nobody got hurt.
Good question. I like that. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay, so let's get into it. So, how did this all start? Like, what was your first experience on anything within UFO, paranormal, psychic? Like, what was your first one?
Well, the first one happened when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And I was sound asleep in my bedroom, and my parents had left a nightlight on in the hallway so I could see if I need to get up at night. And I woke up wide awake. I mean, no grogginess, no drowsiness, just all of a sudden in the middle of the night, I'm totally, completely wide awake. And I thought, well, this is really weird. And I was like trying to hear if a sound woke me or something, if there was some noise, and everything was quiet, didn't hear anything. So I raised up on my elbows in bed, just to kind of look around the room. And as I looked down, my bedroom door was open. As I looked down the hallway in the nightlight glow, I could see this elderly black gentleman peering around the doorway in the hallway. And I screamed bloody murder, because we're a white family. We didn't have anyone black living with us. And my assumption was that someone had broken in, had entered the house. And as I screamed, he walked around the doorway into the hallway, came down the hall toward the bedroom, locking eyes with me. And he was every bit as solid as you or I, Ryan. He wasn't misty, he wasn't translucent, wasn't transparent. He was absolutely, totally, completely solid. He had white hair, close cropped white hair, white mustache. So I knew he was elderly. He had on a red flannel shirt. He had on khaki pants, a black belt, black shoes. And like I say, every bit as solid as you or I sitting here right now. And I screamed bloody murder again. And when I did, my parents came running, and he began to vanish. He then began to become transparent, and he began to vanish until he was gone. And my parents got in there, and they were trying to tell me that there was nobody in the house. I hadn't seen anything. I'd watched too much TV. I'd had a nightmare, whatever. And I knew better. And my fear was so strong that my dad actually went through the house, checked all the doors and windows to make sure they were locked and secure, and they were. He actually opened up all the closets and checked under all the beds and checked everything out. And of course, everything was secure. And they were just trying to tell me it was just a bad dream, go back to sleep. And I knew better. I knew I had seen my first ghost. I didn't know how to define it that exactly at the age of 5, but I knew I had seen my first ghost. And when this gentleman came, he came to open up the portal for me to experience what has become now over 1,000 physical paranormal manifestations that I've experienced in my life. These are not things I experience in meditation. I don't dream them. I don't hallucinate them. I don't envision them. These occur on the physical realm. We have photographs. We have video. We have audio. There have been multiple times that other people have witnessed their occurrence on the physical realm. So that opened up the portal to the other side. And at the same time, then he also opened up my psychic gift. And I became aware of that shortly after the experience as well. And the way that occurred was I was about between, go ahead.
I was just going to ask how old you were when you got the psychic, you discovered the psychic gift.
Well, that was between 5 and 6 then, right
Okay.
around there between 5 and 6. And I was out in the backyard playing with a toy, and this car pulled into the driveway that I didn't recognize. And so I went running in the house, and I got my mom and dad, and I said, Mom, Dad, there's some people in the driveway. I don't know who they are. And they said, okay, we'll come out and look. So they came out and said, oh, those are friends of ours. So they walked out to the driveway as the people were getting out of their car, and they were all standing outside greeting each other and talking. And I was standing there playing with my toy, kind of eavesdropping. And as they were conversing, I just walked up into their midst, and I said, you people have just been on vacation. And I said, you took that car that's sitting in our driveway. But I said, you have kids. You have 2 kids, and you took them with you. You don't have them with you today, but you had 2 kids, and you took them with you in that car, and you went on vacation, and you stayed at this hotel, and it was a couple of stories high, and it looked like this in the front, and there were trees in front that were shaped like this and looked like this. And then I described the pool area in the back and so on and so forth. Well, the woman, I will never forget the expression on her face, Ryan. She was sitting there, standing there, staring at me with her eyes getting bigger and bigger and bigger. She looked at me like I had cobras coming out of my nose or something.
Oh, wow.
And she looked at my parents and she said, how the hell could he possibly know that? And my parents were like, well, and they were just kind of dumbfounded, didn't know how to respond. And she says, how the hell could he possibly know that? And my mother said, well, kids and their imaginations, you know how kids are. She said, imagination, she said, that's what we were coming over to tell you is about this vacation that we just took. And we took our car, we took our 2 kids, we stayed at this hotel that was exactly like John described. How in the hell is that possible? How could he possibly have done this? And my mother was like, John, go play. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Nice to meet you folks. And so I went off. And so then that was when I became aware that I had that psychic gift.
So would that be like, how would you describe that type of psychic ability in that moment? Is that mind reading, or is that precognition? Is that because it already had happened, right?
Right. So it was like a vision I was getting. I could see clearly everything they had done, where they had been, and I could see all the details of it there. And it came to me kind of like, it's a bad description. Anytime you ask a psychic that really has a gift to describe how it works, there's always a really bad, really poor, incomplete description because you grasp at straws. But it was kind of like seeing a movie in my head in a way, is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Visualization, it's a visual display.
Right.
So
that was when I became aware that everything was going on, and I connected it. I realized that the old black gentleman had come to do all that and to awaken the gift. And subsequent to that time, and all these years, I'm 67 now, so I've been around the block a few times. And in all these experiences, I have never been scared again. I've been startled a few times, sure, like everybody is, but I have never been scared again after that. It's been a really amazing ride. And I've been able to help a lot of people experience a lot of really neat things that convince me of the reality of the paranormal realm of the other side and how we can interact it to help ourselves.
Were those the only 2 experiences you've had in your life? Like, what happened after 6?
Oh, then what happened after 6 was 1,000 experiences more. Appearances, disappearances, UFOs, ghosts, healings, telekinesis, you name it. And these have gone on now, like I say, for all these years.
What is your most, let's start with UFO. What was your most moving
Oh my.
fact, like best piece of evidence, or circumstantial, if you will, but like best, most convincing UFO event? And how old were you when that happened?
This is a good story. I'm glad you asked that, Ryan.
Okay.
I was close to, I guess I was around 20 years old, and I had already been reading professionally for a couple of years by then. And I had had this plethora, this avalanche of paranormal experiences. So I absolutely knew the other side was real. I knew the psychic and paranormal realm was real. I did not believe in UFOs. And I had read the literature. I had seen people interviewed. I had read the magazines, and I was like, nope, I ain't buying it. Don't believe it. So, and this is where I kind of have to tie in possibly, and not for a certainty, but possibly the paranormal with UFOs. I was living in West Texas. I grew up in West Texas, and we were at the tip end of Tornado Alley. So familiar with all kinds of severe thunderstorms, bad hail, softball size hail, all that kind of thing, tornadoes. So I was at this place, and my car was in the parking lot across the street, little narrow 2-lane street. I could see my car in the parking lot when I came out the door. And when I opened the door to come out, the first thing that hits me in the face is this blast of wind. And I look up, and it's overcast, and the clouds are dark. And I was like, oh, wow, here we are. We're in for one of our infamous storms. So I look over at my car, and I think, well, thankfully, I only have a little short way to run to get to my car, and it's not raining yet. And as I look over to my car, down in the parking lot, touching the parking lot, is this column of cloud coming from the clouds up above, this column of cloud coming down and resting by my car in the parking lot. So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, okay. And I've seen all kinds of bizarre weather manifestations growing up in West Texas, but I've never seen anything like this. And as I watch it, it's kind of whirling and churning and all this. And from within the cloud, a globule of glowing color will come out and then recede back in. From the top to the bottom of this cloud, all these globules are coming out and then receding back in. And they're red, and they're orange, and they're yellow, and they're green, and they're purple and blue, like the colors of the rainbow. So I'm looking at this, Ryan, and I'm thinking, okay, here I am. I'm this young man. I've gone nuts. I'm hallucinating. That this is it. If I can get to my car, I'm just going to go to the hospital, check myself in. And as I continue to watch this thing, I notice another bizarre phenomenon, and that's all the debris down in the parking lot around the bottom of this cloud should be swirling around or blowing around or moving, and it's perfectly still. It's not affected by the cloud. I'm like, well, this is really crazy. So I'm looking at this cloud, and I have this really ridiculous urge to walk toward the cloud. So I do. And as I move a few steps forward, it moves forward towards me in the parking lot. And I stop, and it stops. I back up, it backs up. So I repeat that a couple more times with the same results. And I'm back up by the door, and the door opens, whacks me in the back. And this buddy of mine comes out, and he goes, oh, geez, I'm sorry. What are you doing standing so close to the door? And without waiting for me to answer, he looks up the clouds. He goes, oh, boy, it looks like we're in for it, huh? And then he looks over in the parking lot, and he goes, what in the world is that? And I'm like, yay, I'm not crazy, because he sees it too. So I said, watch this. So I walk toward it, and it advances toward me. And I back up, and it backs up. And I do that a couple of more times. I'll look at him. I say, isn't that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? He looks at me like I'm the weirdest thing he's ever seen. He's like, bye. He's out of there. He's like freaked out. And his car's parked the other way, so he goes. So I'm like, okay, what do I do now? I know it's real, but here I'm alone with this thing. What in the world is it? What do I do? So all of a sudden, it sucks back up into the clouds above, and they start to move over. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I run for my car, get in my car, and I back out. And I'm like, what in God's name have I just seen? And as I'm driving along, and I know the town all over like the back of my hand, literally. So I know everywhere I'm at on the streets. And as I'm driving along, it begins to rain. And this is not everything is bigger in Texas story. I mean, in Texas, it can rain in 20 minutes. It'll flood your lawn. It'll flood the underpasses. It'll flood streets. So I'm used to the heavy rain there, but this rain starts to come down, and it increases, and I turn my headlights on, I turn my wipers on high, and it keeps coming, and it gets to the point that I literally can see no further past the hood of my car than 2 feet past the hood of my car. That's with my headlights on, the wipers on full. And there's cars angle parked on the street. I can't see them. And I almost hit the person in front of me. We come to a red light and I almost hit them. The person behind me almost hits me because we just can't see each other. The rain is that hard. And it just pitch dark because of the rain.
Right.
So there was a Sears Roebuck store there, and the back of it had a parking lot that faced the street that I knew I was on. And so I said, okay, if I can just somehow make it to that parking lot without hitting anybody or anybody hitting me, I'll park however skewed I can, jump out. I know I'll be soaking wet, but I'll go in the store. And they had one of the best sporting goods departments on the planet. And I said, I'll go downstairs and just gander at the sporting goods till the storm passes and I'll drive home. I didn't care about getting wet. I cared about getting in a wreck because you can't see. So I'm poking along. I'm trying to see the cars that are angle parked. I can't see the tail end of the cars sticking out of the parking spaces that are angle parked. I can barely see the person in front of me. I can just barely pick up the headlights of the person behind me. And I'm like in a panic here. It's like, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. And so I've grabbed the steering wheel. I lean over. I had bench seats in my car, big old Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser station wagon. God, I love that thing. And I leaned over as far as I could toward the passenger window to try and see where the cars are angle parked. And as I'm leaned over that way, now with that small amount of visibility and with the rain coming down that hard, in 1 second, count it, 1001, it's gone. No mist coming down, no moisture, no rain, no nothing. It's just gone. It's just stopped entirely and totally and completely. And full visibility is returned. It's still overcast, still cloudy, but full visibility. I can see as far down the road as I want to either way, see all around me. And I'm like, what in God's name is this? Because that's incredibly unusual behavior. So I reach up, turn my wipers off. There's not even a mist hitting the windshield. And I'm trying to gather my senses and think, what in God's name is going on here? And about that time, the people that are coming in the opposite direction toward us start swerving into our lane and almost hitting the cars that are in front of me. And people are honking. People are starting to yell. People are rolling down their car windows and pointing up at the sky. Some people are throwing open their car doors and leaving them open and pointing up. And I'm like, everybody's gone nuts. What in the world? And then in my mind, growing up in West Texas, they're like, oh my God, I know what they're pointing at. It's like an F5 tornado, right? They're just seeing this thing. That's why everything stopped and got still, and we're fixing to get wiped off the map. So I look up where they're pointing, and over the rear of the Sears building there, maybe about 30 to 50 feet above the building, there's this solid metallic silver UFO about 30 to 50 feet in diameter, hovering there over the rear of the Sears building. No smoke, no flame, no sound, no nothing, just hovering there. And that's what everybody has been pointing at and freaking out about, and what I did not believe in. Brian, I literally did a cartoon eye rub. I literally did a cartoon eye rub, look back up, and it's still there. And I'm like, oh my God. And I start to open the door to get out so I can see it better. And as I reach for the door handle, the clouds behind the UFO come down low behind it and just cover it over. And as they start to cover it over, it just barely perceptibly moves our direction just a little bit. And the clouds cover it over. And the second the clouds cover the UFO over, the rain's back in full intensity immediately, just like it never stopped. So there was this guy in front of me, and I said, I don't care if I hit him at this point. I can't believe what I've seen. All these witnesses saw it before I did. And I just like, I don't care if I hit this guy. I'm going to follow this guy. He pulled into the parking lot, fortunately, the Sears parking lot. And he parked, I parked. He jumped out and ran. I jumped out and ran. Rain was coming down so hard it hurt. I was having to shield my eyes to run. And we got in there, and he was standing inside the vestibule. They had a little airlock there, and the basement went downstairs, and they had one of those mats you wipe your feet on. And he was standing there and just his head down and just standing there dripping water. And I remember he wore glasses. I didn't then, and his glasses were beaded with water. He hadn't even wiped them off. And I walked around in front of him, and it took him a second to realize anybody was standing there. And I looked at him, and I said, excuse me, man, but I said, did you just see what I just saw? And he said, yeah, but I damn sure ain't going to tell nobody. And he sidestepped me and walked on through the store. And that's when I had to change denominations. I had to say, okay, they are real. I've seen it in the presence of witnesses up close and personal in daylight, and don't know what it is, don't know who they are, don't know, can't formulate any theories I can hang my hat on, but by God, they're there. And so that was my introduction to believing in UFOs, and I've had several experiences since then, including an interactive one.
Okay.
But that was the origin story for me, and that was
That one is quite interesting because like I was making notes as we went through because like you have the psychic ability about you prior to this, right?
Mhm.
And the UFO phenomenon, I guess before I get into this, like, is that separate or is that connected? Now with your experience, did you, is there some connection with that, or is that a separate phenomenon in your realm?
To me it's still a separate thing. Like I say, there may be that paranormal component there because that cloud was an integral part of the
Mhm.
experience then leading up to seeing the UFO. So that may be a connection. But in my mind, the psychic gift is entirely separate from the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah, because this may not be a psychic event, especially when you have other people witnessing it in the
Right,
material world, right? So then you
right.
have weather manipulation, like strange proportions, and then you see something when the weather is calm,
Right.
and then it comes back. So what kind of technology do you think uh, would have had to have been available in order to manipulate the weather like that? Like, do you think the machine created the bad
Yeah.
weather and then stopped it,
Yeah.
or the bad weather existed and then it stopped it for a second and then it continued? What was normal?
I think the UFO manipulated it and caused it. That was my feeling at the time, was that it was responsible for that manifestation. And that, because like I say, I grew up in West Texas and every kind of storm condition you can imagine. I've seen every kind of weird weather there is, but I had never seen anything like that. And the only thing and I've never seen any weather like that since. So the only thing I could tie it to was the UFO had to be manipulating that weather and manipulating that manifestation. That's the only conclusion I could come to.
Was there any news coverage? Did anyone go to the papers at all, document that?
No, because back then, this was like right around the 70s, I think, somewhere around in there. Uh, and it's not, Ryan, honestly, it's not much better nowadays. It's just starting to get better, but it's not much better nowadays. But back then, you didn't talk about that. We were in the Bible Belt for one thing. Uh, you were made fun of, you were castigated, you were ostracized. You could lose your job. So people didn't report those things. People didn't talk about those things. And even among themselves, people were reluctant to talk to each other about what they had seen or what they had experienced. And I remember I had a good friend I went to school with, who was on the paper there. And several years down the road, he was interested in some type of paranormal thing and asked if anybody had any experience. So I told him about that, about the UFO experience. And he made a little short mention of it in the paper. With a statement that I went to school with John. I've known him most of my life, and I believe he's absolutely, completely credible and wouldn't lie about such a thing. But that was as far as it went, and nobody, wanted to follow up on it. Nobody wanted to discuss it, and that was my experience back then, growing up as a psychic, and with all these manifestations, were either due to people growing up in the church. It was demonic. It was of the devil. They didn't want anything to do with it. Or they were just scared of it. They didn't want anything to do with it. And that's still, unfortunately, pretty much a prevailing attitude out there that I encounter.
Okay. What happened next?
Oh, man. Well, there's just so many experiences. When like I say, I started reading professionally at age 18. I began to, around age 12, it became really important to me to begin to investigate things paranormally, to do paranormal investigations, because I had this big search for the truth. I had begun to find out that there was a lot of phonies and con artists and frauds in the spiritual realm. in the psychic realm, and even in the church, even in the religious movements. And it was a big thing to me to say, okay, what works, what doesn't? People make a lot of claims, but let's find out if those claims hold water or not. And so I worked on that. I began to do that at about the age of 12. That's something I've continued my entire life and still do. Then at the age of 18, I started to read professionally, and it went on from there, and progressed to the point that I became internationally known. I've read for clients in over 40 countries. I still have a worldwide clientele I read for today. I have continued to do the paranormal investigations, and along the way, a nonstop barrage of paranormal experiences.
What has your research led you to believe today? So what are the answers? You didn't know anything at 12. You started getting into it. You had some experiences at a younger age. You started looking into it. You started learning things, and you had a UFO experience at 20. A bunch of things in between. What's going on? What is really happening?
Well, as far as what is really happening, we live with this other dimension, what I call the other side. And that's an umbrella term that it's the other side. And that's regardless of whether you're seeing a fairy or a deceased loved one or a spirit guide or an angel or whatever, that's the other side. And what we have to realize is that the other side does interact with our realm on a regular basis, and that we can attune ourselves to that for the purpose of making our lives better and making other people's lives better. One example of that is in my life, I can't tell you how many guardian angel experiences that I'm literally deemed guardian angel, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal sense, where they have saved my life, literally saved my life many times. And so that's a benefit of connecting with this other side. We have to understand that the beings on the other side, whoever they are and whatever they are, can see further down the road than we can and have more knowledge than we do and have better insights into things than we do. And so if we make that legitimate connection, then those beings can come to us and they can say, Aunt, don't do this right now. Wait, hang on. Or, you need to be involved in this right now. You need to do this right now. And if we will listen to that, it'll help us. The problem is we don't listen. We pray, we meditate, we cast spells, we do rituals, we say mantras, we do this, we do this, we do that. And we wonder why we don't get anywhere. We never shut the hell up and listen, and to listen, you get rid of your cell phone, you turn your cell phone off, you take the earbuds out, you get away from the TV, you get away from the radio, you get away from whatever, and preferably you sit out in nature where it's quiet and it's silent and you're away from everybody else, and you say, okay, God, universal mind, great spirit, whatever, I've asked you, I need input, I need guidance, I need help, what do I need to do? And then you shut up and you listen. And you may need to listen for 15 minutes, you may need to listen for half an hour, and nothing may come. And if it doesn't, then you do the same thing the next day, and you do the same thing the next day until the information comes. And then here's the big key: when the information comes, you act on it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example of, like in my first book, Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead. I've been a biker since I was 15. On my current bike, I have almost 114,000 miles. So a serious rider all my life. And I'm a good rider. I'm very capable on the motorcycle, and I'm capable of riding safely at high speeds. So here in Florida, where I'm living now, I had scheduled myself a day off, and I was riding on one of the interstates here, and it was a beautiful day, blue sky, sunshine, gorgeous scenery. And I'm tooling along in the right lane at 70 miles an hour, which is the speed limit, which nobody goes, of course. And on this 3-lane interstate, in the right lane, which is supposed to be 70 miles per hour, people usually go 75, 80 or whatever. In the middle lane, people are going 90 and more. And in the left lane, all bets are off. People think they're training for the Daytona 500 there, right? Yeah. So I'm like, today I'm tooling along. I'm geezering it, right? I'm an old man geezer on the bike. I'm just having fun. I'm looking at the countryside. I'm riding along, just lollygagging and enjoying myself. And I hear this voice in my head, which I know very well because I've heard it all my entire life. and it says move into the far left lane. And I argue with the guys on the other side. And I've had all these experiences, all this guidance, all this protection, all this knowledge, and I'm arguing with them. I said, guys, to get into the far left lane, there's going to have to be a whole bunch of throttle on, throttle off, brake on, brake off, upshift, downshift, lean, weave, bob, swerve, and piss off a lot of drivers. And look, I'm happy here. I'm comfortable here. I'm just tooling along, looking at the scenery. John, move into the far left lane now. Bam. So I do, and I get over there, and I'm tooling along a lot faster than I want to be riding, way, way, way below my high-speed riding capability, but not what I want to be doing. I'm like, guys, what in the world? And about that time, in the right lane where I was, I don't know if somebody hit this guy or this guy hit somebody, but he is spinning around in his car. Our eyes actually make contact as he's spinning, and he winds up facing the wrong way on the interstate as cars are hitting him. Detritus is blowing across the interstate from the wreck, bumpers and hubcaps and junk blowing across in front of me, and I'm weaving my way through that, and cars are stopping and swerving and screeching and trying to keep from hitting each other. And so I look back to see if I need to stop and render aid, but people are already stopping, getting out, and I know they're going to call for the highway patrol, so everything will be okay. So I go on. But the point of it is, if I hadn't attuned myself to listen and then listened and then obeyed what I heard, I would have run right into that guy, and no telling how many cars would have hit me, and you and me wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation right now.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant, circumstance and coincidence too, right? Like, because I was thinking to myself, you made that good point about attuning yourself beforehand. Yeah. Thinking to myself, like, if the guardian angel, why didn't the guardian angel tell that person that caused that accident to fix or correct whatever they're doing, so you can continue to stay in the right lane and leave you alone, right? So so they were able to, this divine being of entity or whatever we want to call it, would have had the ability to see into the future or predict that cause of chain of events. And as you know, and obviously you were more important than those individuals.
Not more important, but more in tune.
That's a good point too.
The situation is, and this is what I tell people, this goes back to being in tune and then listening. The guy in front of me probably wasn't in tune, probably wasn't listening, And,
so that makes sense too, because maybe the message is being broadcasted to everyone.
Yeah.
And just some people aren't listening.
And I tell people, I say, look, people say, well, you look at this fantastic experience you had. And then I was in a wreck, and I was like, yeah, what were you doing? Listening to your radio, sending a text message, talking with somebody on the phone. What were you doing? And the problem is, if somebody's got your ear, Ryan, and they're talking to you, and you're in a very serious, deep conversation, and I come up and I go, Ryan, you're probably not even going to hear me. And if I tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Ryan, listen, wait a minute, John, I'm talking to this guy. I gotta, brush it off. And so the same thing with our guardian angels. They're trying to get through to us, and we're like, wait, I got to send this text. I got to scroll through. Oh, look, this cat picture, or, oh, I'm going to fight with my girlfriend. Oh, I got to go pick up the car. And
do you get any audio cues before the message is received, or is it just nothing and then the message and then you? Like, how do you step?
It's just nothing and then the message.
Okay. So how can you separate that from a divine message versus your own intuitive thought? How do you know that it's not yourself?
Experience.
Okay.
Yeah. I've studied this since I was a kid, and I've said, okay, what works, what doesn't? Where does it come from? How can I identify it and know what's what? How can I make it better? And that's what all of us have to do. We have to learn that, we have wishful thinking, we have optimism, we have our gut instinct, and then we have, our urges and whatever that we want to do and all this. So it's a process of learning to separate all that out and differentiate between all of that. And like when I tell my clients, it's like, I say, look, I'll give you a reading. That's great, but I can't be with you next week, next month, whatever. You have to develop your own gut instinct. You have to learn to listen to the other side for yourself. And the way that you do that is to get away from, boy, here's what I really want to happen. Okay, put that on the shelf and then go to the other side and go, what should happen? You know, and I'll give you an example there. I had been on radio for a number of years, and I really, really, really wanted to get on TV because there's a lot of nonsense out there. And I wanted to go on TV and have the chance to correct that and to convey to people, here's what the other side is really like. Here's how you can interact with it to your benefit, and get rid of the silly nonsense that was out there on these paranormal shows. And I just wanted to have that so bad. So I started interacting with the guys on the other side and praying about that and asking them for that. And so my wife and I had been on a cruise. And when we got back, there was a guy, you may remember him, I don't know, but people will remember probably. There was a guy, I don't remember if his name was, I don't know, John Hockenberry or David Hockenberry. His last name was Hockenberry. And he was a reporter for one of the news magazine shows, 48 Hours or one of those. He was in a wheelchair. And so when we came back, I was going through my emails, and there was an email from Hockenberry. And he was like, I want to interview you for 48 Hours or whatever he was on. I was like, oh my God. And I called my wife. I said, look, this is it. This is it. And what I've been asking for, what I've been hoping for. And so my wife comes in, she looks at it, she's like all excited. She's like, oh my God, here it is. This is it. This is what you've been wanting. And I got down to the end of the email, and I got back from the cruise 3 days too late to meet the deadline to be interviewed by this guy. And I was like, oh man. So I was crestfallen. I was like, guys, with all of your ability to set things up and as far ahead in the future as you can see things, this, and the only thing they would tell me, the only thing they would say to me was, just wait, you're going to be so glad you missed this. And I was like, what? That makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm arguing with them, right? So weeks go by, and I'm still arguing with the guys and grousing about this and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm laying in bed one Saturday afternoon, lounged up in bed on my prop pillows watching TV, and I'm flipping through the channels, and I hit this channel, and here's Hockenberry, and he's interviewing John Edward. And I'm like, John Edward's got a New York Times best-selling book. He has his own TV show. John Edward doesn't need to be interviewed. I need to be interviewed. And so I'm watching this thing. I turn the volume up, and Hockenberry is doing everything in his power to make Edward sound like the most stupid, phony, jerkwater con artist there is on the planet. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been my introduction to the general public at large through TV. And the guys told you was going to be glad you missed this. And I was like, oh, okay, yep. So we have to be, when we say, hey, lead me, guide me, we have to be willing to be disappointed. We have to be willing for the answer to be no, or to wait, or to go off in some other direction.
You know what? I mean, that's pretty awesome, because without getting into detail, the last 2 days I've been dealing with something similar to personally. So like I resonate with that message.
Right.
Like in the terms of like I've been working on a case for a long time, and I finally get evidence that I need to prove my point.
Right.
But I've realized that if I prove my point now that I'm right, there's no need to go any further. Otherwise, I'm causing more harm than necessary. So what I've been doing is asking, what should I do, and just waiting. And then as I'm waiting, and now here we are reinforcing it in this message too, in a similar way. So it's really interesting. So, and it's right. We got to pay attention. We have to listen to ourselves. It's something I don't do very often. It's something I'm doing more myself than I have been in the past. And I do find that if it leads you to do good, then good should happen.
Right.
In your experience, has the voices ever or the messages ever led you astray? Have they ever broken your trust? Have you ever done anything bad, anything wrong?
Absolutely not. Never.
You think it's possible? Any demons, any interference, anything like that? Battle against good and evil?
Well, look, I don't see a demon behind every bush. I've never experienced the Exorcist movie thing or anything like that. look, I don't deny that there's evil. All you got to do is read the paper. You see there's evil in the world. You can't deny that. If you extrapolate that to the spiritual realm, not everything can be roses and light and all that over there either. I don't believe that. But I don't believe that we have the negative or evil degree of influence that people attribute things to or chalk things up to. Now, do I believe there is a spiritual battle going on? Absolutely. Do I believe there's a war between good and evil? Absolutely. Are there a lot of things we wish we knew that we don't? Sure. But I think for the most part that we have to say, okay, basically when we get up, if we're asking for the power of good and for light to come to us and to help us, and that's our focus, and we're working toward that, I believe that's what we attract for the most part. Now, with that, do we get led astray? Absolutely, we get led astray. Look at the big fancy televangelists on TV that are worth tens of millions of dollars every year, and their followers live in poverty. That's being led astray. There's a voice that comes in the name of religion that leads you astray. Have you ever sold everything you had and wore rags and went to a commune and lived in a cult while the leader drove behind a Rolls Royce? Okay, then you've been led astray. You've been lied to. You've been led astray. And yes, there is that tendency in the world for us to experience that and for people to exploit that. And I think naturally, therefore, also in the spiritual realm. But I think people make themselves prey to that more than they're taken advantage of by something in the spiritual realm or whatever. There are ways out there to find honest answers, to be led in the right way without being led astray. But people had rather, look, I have a plethora of people worldwide that will tell you that over the years, my predictions have been 80 to 90% accurate. For the entire time that I've read for them, I have some clients that have been with me for decades. I have all of these things that there's photos of, videos of, other people have witnessed, so on and so forth. I have common sense, down to earth, practical, spiritual guidance that will take a client or someone that's seeking and put them in a right direction, in a positive direction that doesn't take advantage of them, that'll make their lives better, and so on and so forth. As a result of that, I don't even make a good living, let alone be rich. Now, if I were to wear a live snake wrapped around my head while I appeared, and outlandish clothes, and put some weird smelling thing on me, and told people that it come from another dimension, and told them all kinds of ridiculous, weird crap, I'd be a multimillionaire. And the problem is that we tend to go, and even people that are con artists will tell you that people tend to go more toward the con than they do toward the truth. And that's where our battle lies. That's where our problem is.
Yeah, because we don't know, but we're searching,
right?
And we want to find. We always want to find that piece, and whatever that piece
definitive answer. Yeah.
But so with human beings, we have the capability of doing good and evil based on our influence.
Right.
Do you think that the spiritual realm, are there only good and only bad, or are they one and also capable of doing good and bad based on their influence?
I think all of the above and then some. I think the spiritual realm, I really get pissed off, Ryan, at people that say, when you die and go to the other side, it's like this. The other realm is like this. The other side's like this. Life after death is like, we don't know. We don't know until we get there. And the information that we have coming back from the other side, for all of the years of research and investigation that we've done, big organizations, individuals, Stanford Research Institute, psychics, mediums, EVPs, seances, on and on and on and on and on. we just have tiny little bits and pieces to glimpse and put together. We have miraculous, marvelous, wonderful things that happen, but it's an incomplete picture at best when it does. And that's why we are still searching and researching and trying to find answers and trying to make sense out of things. And
it's because we're not working together. And
well, that's true. Everybody has a schism. It's like, well, I believe in UFOs, but man, I don't believe in psychics. Well, I believe in psychics, but I don't believe in dowsing. Or, well, I believe in this, but I don't believe in that. So we limit ourselves, and we're too willing to limit ourselves and to segregate ourselves. And then we're too willing to believe any silly thing that comes down the pike and just run with it instead of saying, whoa, wait a minute. Let's investigate this. Let's see if that's real or not. If it is, and if it stands up, if it holds up to the investigation, the truth isn't going to shrink away or vanish just because we want to look at it. And so I think that we have to realize all those things come into play. It's a very complex, very complicated, and very frustrating thing. And we're working.
The thing is that it's either it doesn't exist or it all exists. So there's never, you can't believe in paranormal, like ghosts, but not UFOs, or the other way around.
Exactly.
You can't believe in extraterrestrials and not paranormal activity.
Right.
Because without understanding how they manifest, how they communicate, how they operate.
Correct.
There's a lot of trends, there's a lot of things within what we call the ultra spectrum, where we're studying the psychological, the consciousness contact or connection between both realms, to try to understand that they may very well be the same thing, just called something different by different people, and from different experiences, but and yet still having it exist. So the UFO community,
which is so splintered,
grinds my gears because
me too.
They're so smart that they're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And they know they will fight to the end that ghosts don't exist, paranormal doesn't exist, there's no evidence and all this other stuff, but yet they can make a career off of being a ufologist, which is someone who studies something that has not been identified.
Exactly.
How can you study something that you don't know what it is? And I can understand that when the term was coined back in the 40s, maybe. 80 years have passed, plus or minus, and they haven't figured it out yet.
They haven't figured it out yet, and now we call them UAPs instead of UFOs. We've changed the nomenclature, but
then this paranormal community who puts the same amount of effort in trying to understand life after death, the other side, and all these other things. And if we were to assume for a second, if the UFO guy were to assume for a second that maybe the ET was a interdimensional ghost,
right,
all of us paranormal guys would be able to be like, we knew that all along.
Right.
Welcome to the club.
Right.
But yet they can't accept this spiritual stuff because we can't.
Well, we
can't show it in this material world.
Yeah, that's like Lou Elizondo, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. But he said one time, and I have that somewhere in print, he said one time that ultimately the UFO thing may lead in a spiritual direction, and he hoped that it didn't. But he had to be prepared to accept that if it did, right? So that's where the UFO community lies. Like you say, it's like, okay, we can accept that there are nuts and bolts craft that can do everything that violates every known law of physics and science that we have, and probably are piloted by extraterrestrial beings that come from galaxies far, far away, and they can get here in a split second if they want to. But a ghost? No way.
and the other thing that grinds my gears with that is if you were to turn it around a little bit and say, well, hey, maybe it's not a ghost, maybe it's not ET, maybe it's us, maybe it's man driving the craft.
Right.
They won't even accept that.
Yeah.
They won't even. It's not even possible for ourselves to drive.
Yeah. At this stage of the game, you have to be open to a lot of possibilities because nobody knows. We don't have the answer. Well, let me back up on that.
Okay.
None of us know. I do believe psychically, and I do believe logically that there are people in the government and in the military that do have the answer. And they haven't made it available for whatever reason, and we can speculate whatever those reasons are.
Do you need to know what that answer is that's for the entire world? What we don't have is an understanding or confirmation of it globally. But you as an experiencer, as a witness, you know what it is. You believe it to be something.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that not good enough?
No, it's not, because in everything that we experience, we need to have the answer for that experience and how we integrate that into our lives. It's like I have a third book coming out, and in this book, it's called 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. Okay. And it's for the average person on the street that doesn't know beans and wants to increase their psychic abilities. Each chapter will have one lesson. So 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, 20 chapters. And each chapter has one thing in it. And what I do from my own experience, my own knowledge, and I know that this works, I take for example, the first chapter is on psychometry, and it defines what it is. It explains it so that you can understand, okay, so that's what it is. And then it tells you step by step. I take your hand and lead you step by step through how to learn it, and then how to practice it so you get good at it, and then the real world application of that. Because if you learn psychometry and you go to a party and you say, hey, give me your ring, and they give you your ring, and you go, you bought this in Dallas. Oh, wow, man, that's cool. That's cool. That's the end of it. It's a parlor trick. It's a real manifestation. It actually occurred, but it's a parlor trick, and that's it. Now, if you take the real world application of being able to do that, and somebody comes to you and says, man, I've got this contract here, and I don't know whether to sign this thing or not. Let me see it. And you hold on to that contract and you go, oh man, this guy's a shyster. Don't sign this contract. Don't do with this. That's the real world application of it. So these things we learn and we experience, we need to integrate them into our lives so that we help ourselves and so that we help others. So seeing the thing, is that enough answer? No. Why is it here? Who's piloting it? What are their intentions? What's going on? That's what we have to discern, and that's what we have to apply then.
Okay. Are there some circumstances where it can be okay though? Because like I understand where you're coming from because you're an investigator. I'm the same way. I'm an investigator. That's I want to know I want to know where,
why, when, and how. Yeah.
But I mean, if I were to just settle, like there's a lot of things that I could say, yeah, I know. Like I know for sure that the ufology community is a business model and a scam.
Exactly. Bingo. Thank you for saying that. Bingo.
Yeah. So let's actually pause right here because we got to head over for a commercial break anyway.
Sure.
And then we'll get into that. So we'll pause right here, but we'll be back. We'll continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, remember to head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association to see the live video that goes with this audio. Remember, you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. I'm with John Russell, and we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.